Okay, so today we are finally getting into my monthly wrap, talking all the books that I read in the month of August. I apologize for the day's delay. Turned out I needed to use all 31 of August's days to get through all the books on my TBR. Before we get into the monthly wrap and focus on the books that I am going to be spending a lot of time on, I want to turn my attention to some books that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on in this video. Starting off with the books that I DNF'd this month. I'm not going to talk about them a lot at all in this video because I have my winter seasonal DNF video coming up in less than a week, so I'll spend more time over there. But I DNF'd two books in the month of August, The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, and unfortunately Piranesi. These books just weren't for me. As I say, I am going to elaborate on them when I do my winter seasonal DNFs video coming up in less than a week's time. Next, I want to refer to the books that I buddy read for the month of August on my Discord server. I have actually done a Mr. Fancy Buddy Reads monthly wrap. I'll link it somewhere up there and in the description below, so you can check that out. I go into a lot more detail over there, but I buddy read 3 books this month. Hollow Pox, which is book number 3 in the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade fantasy. I gave this book 4 stars. The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This is an adult classic book. I gave this book 5 stars. And the final book that I buddy read this month was Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. I gave this book 3 stars. This is an adult classic. I also have a spoiler-free review of this book. I believe it's a spoiler-free review of this book also, and a spoiler review of this book. So plenty of videos discussing these books. You can feel free to go back and check them out for yourself. Those books will be included in the stats that you're about to see. My books that I DNF do not get included in my stats, so whether it's books read or pages read, they're not included, but everything else, including the buddy reads, are. So now let's get right into the rest of the books that I read for the month of August, starting off with my monthly stats. So for the month of August, I read a total of 12 books comprising of 4 fantasy, 2 classics, 1 romance, 1 historical fiction, 1 sci-fi, and 1 horror. To my age ratings, I had 1 YA, 5 middle grade, and 5 adult books. To my lengths, I had 3 tomes, 2 3/4 tomes, 4 half tomes, and 3 novellas, for a total of 4,040 pages read. To my star ratings, August was definitely welcome to 4-star Landia month for me because I had 3 5 stars, 7 4 stars, and 2 3 stars, 0 2 stars, and 0 1 star, which means overall I had a pretty good month. The first book that I read for the month of August was this book, The Heroes of Olympus, The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. This is a middle grade fantasy, and I gave this book 5 stars. Technically, this was a reread for me. I read this book way back in March of 2020 and had always wanted to continue on with the series, but just never got around to it. I finally decided I would do that this month, but because it had been over a year, I decided that it would be a good idea to refresh myself and reread the book, and I did not regret it. I gave it 5 stars. So this book follows Piper, Leo, and Jason, who at the beginning of the book believe themselves to be human. They end up finding out very early on in the book that there is more to them than meets the eye. They are demigods, which is the result of a god and a god, mother or father, and the other parent being human. So we followed these 3 as they not only go to a camp called Camp Half-Blood where they get to learn more about who they are and what they do, but we also follow them as they go on an epic journey questing adventure. Now, the journey/questing trope is not something that I tend to love unless it is done well, and Rick Riordan definitely does it very well. If you are a fan of Greek and Roman mythology, you will love this book. He pieces and parcels out Greek and Roman mythology throughout the questing adventure in a way that just kept me so entertained all the way through. So I highly recommend this one. I gave it 5 stars. My goodness me. Seriously, the hair does not want to stay. So therefore, the next book that I read in August was this book, The Heroes of Olympus, the Son of Neptune, which is book number 2 in the Heroes of Olympus series. Again, by Rick Riordan. It is, again, a middle grade fantasy. I gave this book 4 stars. I have a spoiler-free and spoiler review of both of these books, so I'll link them somewhere in the video. Feel free to go ahead and check that out as well. We actually follow 3 different, completely new characters from this book, so that kind of annoyed me a little bit, but these characters also go on a traveling / questing adventure, which was fine. Once I was finally on board with the fact that I wasn't following the characters I grew to love in this book, which took me a long time to get over, admittedly, then I started settling down and enjoying this book for what it was, ultimately giving it 4 stars. I'm definitely going to continue on with this series. The next book that I read in the month of August was Hollowpox, but we've already spoken about that. You can check out my buddy read for August. So the book I read after Hollowpox was this book, I've Got Your Number by Sophie Kinsella. This is an adult fantasy written by Sophie Kinsella, and I gave this book 5 stars. Sorry, did I just say adult fantasy? This is an adult straight romance. Oh my gosh, there's no fantasy in this book at all. I went into this book having read, I believe, 3 or 4 straight romances, something along those lines, and they were up and down for me, hit and miss, and I was just starting to regret having this goal at all. Sophie Kinsella has turned things around for me in the best possible way. I once again have a spoiler-free and spoiler review for this book, so I'll link it up there and down there, so feel free to check that out. This was fantastic. I want you to go in as blind as you possibly can with this book. It was so wonderful. It is the single best adult straight romance book I've ever read, and I love Sophie Kinsella so much that I'm very strongly considering adding the Shopaholic series as a goal for my 2022 reads. The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. This is an adult historical fiction, and I gave this book 4.5 stars. Oh gosh, this is tough to explain, so bear with me. It is a multi-perspective book in that we follow the perspective of 3 different people. It is also dual perspective when it comes to time. We are dealing with the dual perspective with then and now. And with the 3 characters we follow, 2 of them are from the past, and we follow them in the past, and then we have 1 character who we're following in the present. It took me about a chapter to realize that just physically reading it was not going to work for me, so I switched over to the audiobook and physically read while listening along to the audiobook, and that definitely helped. The 2 people that we're following from the past are Nella and Eliza. Nella, in the past, ran an apothecary where she sold, I'm going to call them potions because I can't think of a better word, but natural potions, if that makes sense. She sells potions exclusively to women. Potions that are either health remedies to help them with their health, or potions that are poisonous for women to get revenge on men. The other perspective that we follow is Eliza in the past, and Eliza comes into Nella's shop and meets her for the first time when she's picking up a potion for her mistress who wants to kill someone who is cheating with her husband. The now perspective is that we're following Caroline. Caroline's husband also cheated on her, I mean. So they were meant to go to a honeymoon suite after their marriage in London, and Caroline decides to go on her own. She ends up meeting a guy who is into mud larking or mud lurking, whatever it's called, and she ends up getting involved in that. She ends up finding a potion bottle, which, I mean, it's not hard to imagine links back to the apothecary. Historical fiction is not always the genre for me, and 9 times out of 10 I don't enjoy them, but the premise of this book really intrigued me, and the result of reading the book was the same. It did not let me down at all. 4.5 stars, and I do have a spoiler-free and spoiler review for this book, so feel free to check that out. The next book that I read was Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. We've spoken about this. But the next book that I read was helping me to finish off the first 2 eras of the Pretty Little Liars series. There are 8 books within the first 2 eras, and I read book 7 this month, which means in October I'll be wrapping up this series, and you guys, I'm happy. I'm happy that I'm wrapping up the series because overall, I'm not enjoying it. So book number 7 is Heartless by Sarah Shepard. It is a YA mystery series. We're following 4 girls. One night, 5 girls end up having a sleepover in one of the girls' barns. By the next morning, one of the 5 girls, who just so happens to be the queen bee of their high school, ends up going missing. The rest of the girls are being cyber-stalked over their phones by an unknown antagonist known as A. So we're trying to work out who the heck A is. What really let me down with this book was the fact that this is the second last book in era number 2, so I really thought we'd have a ton of setup for the final book in the second era, and I don't think we did. I gave this book 3 stars, which is the lowest rating I've given any of the Pretty Little Liars books so far. The next book that I read was actually a bit of a secret. Well, you know, talking about Pretty Little Liars and the theme song for the show, got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you'll save. Well, I definitely kept this secret, and I kept it well. I not only did not put this book on my Goodreads, I did not include it in my Discord, I did not mention this anywhere, because I wanted it to be a surprise for one of my subscribers who I know watches all of my videos, and so now I get to reveal that surprise. The next book that I did read was this book, The Witching Flower by Samantha Silver. This is an adult cozy mystery, and this is my first cozy mystery that I've ever read, and I absolutely loved this book. This was just fantastic. I just think this cover is adorable. Don't you? Meow meow. We're following a woman whose name is Robin, who was adopted out when she was younger, so she never met her mother. Her biological mother, has since passed away, and Robin's aunt reached out to her saying that she would like to meet Robin, and that also that her biological mother had bequeathed her a bakery that she used to run. So Robin moves to Spelford Cove to check out the bakery and see if she wants to end up living there, and while she's there, she ends up finding out that she is a born witch. And so we move through this book with Robin learning more about who she is. It's an amazing ride. Now, it is a cozy mystery, so of course there is a mystery in the book. I wasn't a massive fan of the mystery, I'll be honest, but I was a fan of everything else, and that more than made up for it, which is why I'm giving this book 4.5 stars, just because the mystery did let me down, or at least the reveal for the mystery let me down. But I love the culture, I love the world building, I loved learning about the magic system. We have both soft and hard magic systems in this book. There are characters that are so fantastic in this book. I love Elsa, who is one of Robin's cousins. She's just so bubbly and upbeat. I love her. And and Robin also comes to find out she has a familiar, which is this little pretty cat undercover, whose name, believe it or not, is rather audaciously William Shakespeare. And I love William Shakespeare. He is as sassy as they come, and his favorite pastime is reading because he's taught himself to read. If that's not enough to interest you in this book, I don't know what is, but I can't highly recommend this book enough. If this book is an absolutely strong representation of what cozy mysteries are, I'm on board. Let's read more, and guaranteed I'm going to keep going with this series because it was fantastic. 4.5 stars. The next book that I read was helping me to achieve another goal that I have, which is to try and complete every single book in the Cosmere timeline by Brandon Sanderson, and so I read the final book in the White Sand series, White Sand Volume 3. So this series, as well as this book, is a series of graphic novels. Technically speaking, it is an adult fantasy graphic novel series. And the premise of this series is that it revolves around a man, Mr. Kenton, I think his name is, and the magic system revolves around manipulation of sand, and I just thought it was so fantastic. Brandon Sanderson has just never let me down with his magic systems. The imagination that he has, the creativity that he has is just endless, and I just thought this series was fantastic. This book received 4 stars from me because it took me a little bit of time to get into the book. I felt that it had a bit of a slow beginning to the final book, at least so far in the series, but the second half was just fantastic, and the way that this series concluded, man, So good. The next book that I read was this book, which is The Predator by K.A. Applegate. This is book number 5 in the Animorph series, and this book has helped me to close out a goal. Yay! So I had a goal for 2021 to read the first 5 books in the Animorph series. This being book 5, I've now done that. Yay! This is a fantastic series so far. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this book because I'm going to do a video shortly, soon enough, where I talk about the first 5 books overall and go into more detail and depth over there. But all I'll say to keep it spoiler free is that for the most part I enjoyed this book. It was another 4-star read for me. I thought that most of what we went through was pretty good. The climax was fantastic. The new morph that we deal with in this book, was wonderful. I gave it 4 stars. It was great. And the final book I literally read on the last day, which is why this video was delayed in the first place. But my 12th and final book that I read for the month of August was this book, which is Stay Out of the Basement. This is book 2 in the Goosebumps series by R.L. Stine. I also have a goal to read the first 5 Goosebumps books, and now I've read 2. So in this book, we are following Margaret and her brother Casey. Well, we follow Margaret, but she's around her brother Casey most of the time. And there's something going on with their father, but they can't quite tell what it is. He has recently been laid off from his job, so he is now working from home, and he works from home a lot in the basement, where he is a scientist and he's working with plants. I'm not going to say much more, but if you've read any Goosebumps book or, you know of R.L. Stine and how he is, I'm sure that you can imagine the type of things that someone like R.L. Stine could do with a middle grade horror where we have plants in a basement. It was fantastic. I have to say very quickly that Goosebumps, the name of the series, is adequately titled. I was feeling all the chills throughout the entirety of the book. Whether we had high action scenes or cool scenes, I was feeling chills the whole way through. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It's 4-star Landia this month, as I already told you. And now for everyone's favourite game that we like to call Up. These are the books that I read for the month of August 2021. Gosh, I nearly snapped my wrist doing that. But that is where I am going to leave it. So, what books did you read in the month of August? Let me know in the comment section below. But in the meantime, letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Thank you so much for watching. Good night, and happy reading!